These are real encounters, true accounts of people who faced the unimaginable and lived to tell the tale. Some of these stories were never meant to be heard, but tonight you will. This is the story of Lake Nyos, a beautiful, peaceful body of water hidden in the hills of Cameroon. But beneath its calm surface lurks something deadly, something silent, something invisible. It was August 21st, 1986, just another quiet night in the nearby villages. Families gathered for dinner, children played, and farmers tended to their livestock. And then it happened. From the depths of Lake Nyos, a monstrous cloud of carbon dioxide erupted, rising from the water like a phantom. An enormous unseen force blanketed the land, rolling over homes, creeping into every crevice, swallowing the air itself. Imagine this. You're sitting with your family, laughing over a warm meal, and suddenly you can't breathe. You try to scream, but no sound comes out. Your body collapses. Your loved ones drop to the floor around you. The livestock in the field slump over, lifeless. No fire, no explosion, just silence. Morning came. The village was silent. Bodies lay where they fell. No signs of struggle, no damage, just death. It was as if life itself had simply been erased. One survivor, a man named Joseph, awoke to find his entire family gone. His wife, his children, lifeless. He stumbled outside, gasping for air, only to find his neighbors lying in the streets, their eyes frozen in terror. Scientists later discovered that the lake had been sitting on a volcanic pocket, trapping massive amounts of CO2 at the bottom. On that fateful night, something disturbed the delicate balance. A landslide, a temperature shift no one knows for sure, but what they do know is that when the gas escaped, it moved like a silent wave of doom, suffocating everything in its path. Even now, Lake Nyos is being monitored. Engineers have placed pipes to vent the gas to prevent another catastrophe. But the question remains, what if it happens again? Lake Nyos isn't the only place where nature has turned against us. Sometimes death doesn't come with a warning. Sometimes it comes barreling down the tracks, and no one sees it coming. February 18th, 2004, Nishabur, Iran. A day that began like any other until disaster struck. It started with a train, an unmanned train, 51 wagons packed with deadly cargo sulfur, fertilizer, petrol and cotton wool. Somehow, somewhere along the tracks, the train broke loose. For 20 kilometers it rolled silently, an unstoppable force heading straight for catastrophe. No one on board, no brakes applied, just pure momentum. Then derailment. The train came off the tracks in the small town of Kayam, its heavy cargo crashing into the ground. Fires erupted instantly. The air filled with smoke and chemical leaks spread across the area. Authorities rushed to the scene. Firefighters, police officers, emergency responders, all desperately trying to contain the chaos. They thought they were making progress, but they had no idea what was coming next. At exactly 12:07 p.m., the earth shook. The explosion was so massive that it wiped the entire town of Kayam off the map. A fireball erupted into the sky, leveling buildings, flipping cars, shattering windows 70 kilometers away. The shock wave was so intense it registered as a 3.6 magnitude earthquake. 3 nearby towns were heavily damaged. The land itself was scarred, roads torn apart as if by an unseen force. Around 300 people lost their lives, firefighters, rescuers, families who had no idea what was coming. More than 400 others were injured, and the nightmare didn't stop there. The wreckage continued to explode for days. People searched through the ruins looking for loved ones, but there was almost nothing left. The devastation was total. To this day, no one knows exactly what caused the train to break loose. No one knows why it travelled so far, so fast without stopping. But what we do know is that one moment everything was normal. The next, an entire town ceased to exist. This isn't the only time disaster struck without warning. Some tragedies are too horrific to comprehend, some fates too disturbing to imagine. But what happened in Cincinnati in 1904 is something out of a nightmare. It was a cold afternoon in Cincinnati, Ohio. The students of Dixon School were outside enjoying their break. Laughter filled the air, footsteps echoed across the schoolyard, but inside the small wooden outhouse 9 young girls had gathered. A normal moment, a routine part of their day, and then without warning the floor collapsed. The girls fell straight down into a deep, foul pit below, a cesspool of human waste. The more they struggled, the deeper they sank. The thick sludge pulled them under. Their tiny hands reached up, grasping, desperate for anything to hold on to, but no one could reach them in time. 9 innocent children drowned in filth. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Their small bodies were recovered, lifeless, their faces frozen in terror. The town was horrified. Parents, teachers, no one could believe how something so simple, so avoidable, had turned into a grotesque tragedy. An outhouse meant for nothing more than daily use had become a tomb. The blame fell on poor construction, on neglect, on a world that had failed these children. But no amount of finger-pointing could bring them back. The Cincinnati Privy disaster remains one of the most disturbing and heartbreaking accidents in American history. A reminder that death can come anywhere, at any time, even in the most mundane places. Sometimes death doesn't wait for an accident to happen. The woods at night can be peaceful, or they can be the most terrifying place on earth. Sometimes what you hear in the darkness isn't just the wind. It was supposed to be a normal camping trip, a weekend escape into the wilderness. Just me, my cousin Jake, and a few friends. We set up camp near a lake, miles away from civilization. No cell service, just us and nature. The first night was peaceful. The second, that's when things got weird. It started with small things. At first we thought it was an animal, a deer maybe. But then the footsteps circled the camp, slowly, deliberately. We shined our flashlights into the trees. Nothing. But I swear I felt eyes on me, watching, waiting. Jake laughed it off. Probably just your imagination, man. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But then the whispering started. Low. Indistinct. Like voices carried by the breeze. Except there was no breeze. The air was completely still. We all heard it. That's when we decided to turn in for the night. We zipped up our tents, tried to sleep, but the woods weren't done with us. Somewhere around 3 a.m., I woke up. Something wasn't right. Then I realized the tent zipper was open. I sat up fast, heart pounding. I shined my flashlight toward the entrance. The flap was swaying slightly, like someone or something had just been there. Jake groaned from his sleeping bag. "Dude, what are you doing?" "I didn't open it," I whispered. Pause. Then, the most blood-curdling scream I've ever heard. It wasn't an animal, it wasn't human, it was something in between, and it was close. We bolted out of the tent, grabbed whatever we could, and ran. We didn't stop until we reached the car. By the time the sun came up, we were miles away from that place. Later, we checked the news. No missing hikers, no strange sightings, nothing. As if whatever was out there never existed. But I know what I heard. I know what I felt. And I know something was out there that night, watching, waiting. Some things in the woods can't be explained. Some things are better left undiscovered. You think you know your neighbours. You pass them every day, exchange polite smiles. But what if the person living next door was hiding something terrifying? It started with small things. At first I thought I was imagining it. Doors in my apartment unlocked when I was sure I had locked them. Food missing from my fridge. A strange smell in the hallway. Then there were the noises. Scraping sounds in the walls at night. Heavy breathing, but not mine. One night, as I was getting ready for bed, I heard it again, soft, deliberate shuffling from inside my apartment. My heart pounded. I lived alone. I grabbed my phone, creeping toward the hallway. The air was heavy, suffocating. I peeked around the corner and saw my neighbour standing in my living room. His eyes were wide, unblinking. His clothes torn, dirty. He was holding a knife. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He took a step forward, and then he smiled, a slow, unnatural grin. "I've been living in your walls," he whispered, "for months." I ran, bolted out the door, down the stairs, screaming for help. When the police arrived, they found a hidden crawl space behind my closet. Inside a mattress, a pile of my missing clothes, even food wrappers from my own kitchen. He had been there all along, watching me, listening, waiting. And the worst part, they never caught him. To this day, I don't sleep without checking every wall, every closet, because I know he could still be out there, watching. Sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones living next door. Some people disappear without a trace. But sometimes they were never really gone to begin with. It started with a smell. My friend Alex lived in a rundown apartment complex, the kind where the walls were thin and the hallways always smelled musty. But this smell was different. It was sickly sweet, heavy. It clung to the air, to your clothes, to your skin. It came from the apartment next door. The guy who lived there, John, was quiet, kept to himself. We barely saw him. A few months ago, I noticed his mail piling up, lights off every night. I assumed he moved out, but that smell, it was getting worse. I called the landlord. He hesitated, muttered something about not wanting to deal with it, but eventually he came with a spare key. The door creaked open. The apartment was dark. The air was thick, suffocating. As we stepped inside, our shoes stuck to the floor. Rot, decay, death. And then we saw him, John, sitting in his chair, motionless, his skin blackened, sunken, his eyes hollow. He had been there for months. But the worst part, His TV was on. The screen displayed nothing but static, as if someone had been watching. We called the police. They said he had been dead for over 3 months, but his rent? It had still been paid. His electricity never shut off. And when they checked his fridge, there were fresh groceries inside. Someone had been here. But the cameras in the hallway never showed a single person entering, to this day. I still wonder if John was really alone in that apartment, or if something else had been keeping him company. Some doors should never be opened. Some questions should never be answered. Some things should never be played with, and when they are, sometimes something follows you back. It started as a joke. We were just kids, staying at my friend Emily's house for a sleepover. It was her idea. She had found an old Ouija board in her grandmother's attic, covered in dust and sealed in a wooden box. She said her grandmother used to warn her about it, said it was bad luck, but we laughed it off. We were 13. We didn't believe in ghosts. So that night in her candle-lit bedroom we sat in a circle, fingers lightly touching the planchette. We started asking questions. Is anyone here with us? For a long moment, nothing, just the sound of our own breathing. Then it moved, slowly, deliberately. Yes! Emily laughed nervously. Okay, who's messing with it? None of us answered. None of us were moving it. We kept going, giggling, pretending we weren't scared. But then we asked it something we shouldn't have. Who are you? The planchette began to move again. Follow. What does that mean? I whispered, my throat dry. The candle went out. We screamed, scrambled to turn on the lights. The board sat there, motionless. The air felt heavy, like something was still in the room with us. We packed it up, stuffed it back in the box, shoved it into the closet. We swore to never touch it again. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing things, soft whispers, shuffling footsteps outside the door. At one point I swore I saw a shadow standing in the corner of the room, but when I blinked it was gone. The next morning, Emily's mum found the Ouija board in the kitchen, laid out perfectly as if someone had been using it. She yelled at us, demanded to know who had taken it from the closet, but none of us had touched it. We never spoke about it again, but weird things started happening. Emily's room always felt cold, even in the summer. Her door would open by itself at night. She swore she heard her name being whispered when she was alone, and then one night she woke up to see something standing at the foot of her bed. Tall, shadowy, watching. She screamed. Her mum ran in, but the thing was gone. The only thing left was the Ouija board, sitting on the floor, spelling out one final word: mine. Some things, once invited in, never leave. We tell ourselves these things won't happen again, that we've learned from the past, but history has a way of repeating itself. And the worst part? We never see it coming.